अनु तो यूज करेगा नहीं वो करेगा राइट क्लिक करना उसको लेगा राइट क्लिक करके कंट्रोल का प्रेस करें कहीं पे कंट्रोल करो कर दूं फिर ऐसे जो है इसके सेव कर दो कमेंट्स को कंट्रोल लाइव कंट्रोल रूम अभी आ रहा है ना कमेंट्स विल स्टार्ट वन से स्टार्ट करेंगे ना तो मैं यहाँ से कर दूँगा मैंने कंट्रोल रूम में कर लिया है तो इसको यहाँ से करके एडिट ऑडियंस यस इसमें फॉर किड्स मैं अपडेट कर दूँगा वीडियो तो तुरंत हो जाएगा यहाँ से ठीक है ऐसे ये हो ही रहा है तो इसमें मैं तुम्हारा नाम चेंज कर देता हूँ डॉक्टर पूजा जी ये सही कर देता हूँ यहाँ पर ठीक है सेटिंग प्रोफाइल ये सही ठीक है तुम उसको नाम कर लेना ये साथ में इसको कर लो निकाल दो ना चलेगा ये बैकग्राउंड में
नहीं ठीक है ये तो आएंगे ना
हाँ पे अच्छा अच्छा इसमें एक चाबी की जरूरत है फास्ट होता है 60% चल रहा है ठीक है ये हो गया लाइव स्ट्रीमिंग चल रही है कमेंट्स आ रहे हैं वाइल्स कंटेंट व्यूअर्स हो गए 12 ऑलरेडी आ गए 25 आ गए नानू क्या कर रहा है वहां से यहाँ से लाइव, तुम वहाँ से लाइव स्ट्रीम कर रहे हो क्या?
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, Pooja.
Yeah, Dr. Ram, can you please share your screen first?
But you are not sharing it from there.
No, I now cancelled it. So
Okay.
if there is any problem, I will share from my side. So that is as a backup. So
Okay.
first share from your side.
Sure. I will do that. Hello.
Yeah, Dr. Ram, please share your screen.
No, but today in this Meet application window, I don't see the PowerPoint.
Now go to your left corner.
Yeah. Share your screen.
Yeah.
Then application window.
You have to first open your presentation, then only you can see in application window.
Yeah, application is open.
Okay. So what you have
Yeah.
to
Okay.
do, application
It's
window, you
coming.
can,
It's coming.
yeah, it's coming. Okay. Yeah, can you do it in full mode now?
Yep. I need to also go to YouTube, right?
It's streaming on YouTube now.
I don't have to do anything from my side.
Pardon?
I don't have to go to YouTube in that
No,
case.
no, no. No, you don't have to do. You have to just make your presentation full screen.
I have made it.
Okay, I'm just waiting for it to come as a full screen.
जिसका भी नहीं है,
Huh?
कोई जिसका भी नहीं है,
Full
ना
screen.
अच्छे से तो ये नहीं.
Dr. Ram,
Yeah.
your presentation has not come yet.
I have it in the full screen and I have shared it also.
Okay, let me wait. Otherwise, what you do, you join again and then share.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Fine.
Then एक्चुअली मीट करोगे तो मैं बताता हूँ क्या होना है. उसको जब
Yeah. Yeah. Camera is switched off. Are you seeing it? Okay. Yeah. Fine. Okay. Take. Okay. Fine. Thank you. Okay. Fine.
Yeah. So I welcome all the participants again in this Jigyasa Science webinar being organized by CSIR in collaboration with INIAS. The series is Let's Talk Science, What, Why, and How. So under this series, like I told, we are covering various lectures on topics related to general science, syllabus, popular science, career in science, ICT in science education, science history in India. So today there are some instructions for the participants. There is some instruction for the participants that they can put their question on csiojigyasa@gmail.com. Also, they can put their question in the chat box once talk is over. So today we have Dr. V. Ramanathan with us. Dr. V. Ramanathan is a faculty in chemistry at IIT BHU. He did his PhD from IIT Kanpur, postdoc from Seoul. His current research is focused on using Raman imaging for biology and medicine. He is a Fulbright scholar and served as a member of National Core Committee of INIAS. So with this, I would request Dr. Ram to start with today's topic. So Dr. Ram, now it's over to you. You can start with your lecture, please.
Thank you, Dr. Pooja. I hope
Yeah.
I'm audible.
Here.
I hope I'm audible.
Hello.
I hope I'm audible. Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you, Dr. Pooja, for organizing this wonderful lecture series. A very good afternoon to one and all. It's indeed my great privilege and a nice opportunity for me to spend my time in this lockdown period by interacting with so many young students right sitting from my home. So thank you once again, CSIR and Dr. Pooja specifically. So today the topic that has been given to me is to talk about career opportunities in science for students. I'm given that the target audience is mostly high school students. So I've divided my talk in such a way that I'll first give you some statistics about our current scenario in the country regarding opportunities in science after your school, and then maybe giving a few examples, followed by questions, because I would like to answer as many questions as possible in this, and I'll try and see if I can answer your queries. So let's move on. I would like to begin with this quote which is I read out: science is a wonderful thing if one does not have to earn one's living at it. One should earn one's living by work of which one is sure one is capable. Only when we do not have to be accountable to anybody can we find joy in scientific endeavor. And can you guess, or in your mind, who would have told this quotation? I give you 5 seconds and pat your back if you have got the answer right. It's none other than our friend Albert Einstein. Now, why I have put this quotation is that he said science is a wonderful thing if it is taken up not as a source of one's livelihood. Meaning, if science is a source of one's livelihood, then actually there is not much of charm in it. So why am I quoting this in the very beginning of my talk is that this is quite opposite. The philosophy expressed by Einstein about pursuing science is very much opposite to the theme of the talk that I'm trying to present, which is in fact earning a livelihood by pursuing science. So the very beginning itself, I would like to introduce this paradoxical framework that science as a career is a completely different phenomenon, a completely different concept compared to science for the sake of science itself. So having introduced to you this paradoxical background,
Live streaming is on.
Yeah, please go ahead.
yeah.
Yeah.
So sorry for that technical break. As I was saying, I have divided my talk in these outline. So secondly, I will be discussing about academia versus industry, specific focus on career path, followed by a very brief introduction to what are the international opportunities right after different stages in your career. And finally, and most importantly, I'll be introducing, albeit very briefly, about startup opportunities that we have. So going ahead, as I said, first I'll be dumping a few statistics on you to impress upon, to lay the context where we are actually. So here you see a table, and I would like to specifically attract your focus on the higher secondary and postgraduate and above degrees. As you may see that there has been a steady rise in the numbers. So what you see is as 19,067, and this have to be again multiplied by 1,000. So these figures have been almost doubled in the last at least 30 years, 25 to 30 years. Similarly, also is in the case of higher secondary and in the case of postgraduate and above degree courses. You can see that there has been an order of magnitude change in the number of students enrolling. So, but that again, this is what is referred to as a gross enrollment ratio. But in an on the international platform, you can also see where we stand compared to countries like United States of America, Russia, UK, France, Malaysia, and so on and so forth. So our gross enrollment ratio on a national scale has a lot to catch. But within the country, in the last 25 to 30 years, there has been tremendous movement increasing the gross as was apparent in the previous table. This is again the bar chart, that there has been a jump in from 10 to 15%, and the number of higher education institutions have also more or less doubled, say from 29,384 in 2006 to almost 46,430. So as of 2016, this report, if I'm not wrong, is taken from 2015 and 16. As of 2016, there are around 120 million students in higher education. So you can see the numbers here, and it was estimated in 2016 that by 2020, that is this year, around 220 million students would have finished school. And I believe some of you in the audience and many of your friends are in this category. Of this 220 million who will finish school in this year, nearly 150 million will opt for work and not higher education. So there we'll have to also see how the demography, the density of population is also changing. In order to assimilate this many numbers which are coming every year into the job market. So this is again a very challenging problem for our country, namely job creation, in order to absorb the graduates that are getting graduated every year from the educational institution. Another vital statistics you must note is that there are 135 million students in the primary school, and this is the largest primary school education system in the world. Okay, so why I'm giving you the statistics is you'll have to look at it from a futuristic perspective. If these many students are in primary school today, after a decade, they'll be finishing their school and perhaps even their college. And what is it that they have to do once they enter the society? So that's a big challenge that we'll have to face. And to face that challenge, that's the reason I'm bombarding you with these numbers, so that you can keep these numbers at the back of your mind. A very small deroute, but then I wanted to present this slide because this year specifically we are celebrating Women in Science year. So here on the left you see a graph where there is a steady increase of percentage of girl child in class 11 and 12 in the last 40 years. So if you start from 1980, which was about 30%, has now gone more than 40%. But this is not an absolute. Why? Because you'll have to look at it from the perspective of population pyramid, which I've presented to you next beside the graph. And I leave it as a homework for you to connect the data given in the population pyramid and the rise in the percentage of girl child enrolled in class 11th and 12th. So I would like you to take it up as a food for thought, as a homework, and maybe you can write to me or Dr. Pooja explaining this, the connection between the population pyramid and this graph. Moving ahead, some more statistics. This is the data or a statistics that I'm giving you, which talks about different distribution of students opting different academic courses or degrees, namely PhD, MPhil, postgraduate, undergraduate, PG diploma, certificate course, and integrated course. Mind you, this is overall statistics, not specific for science or any subject. Those will follow a little bit later. So I'll not delve deeper into it. Just wanted to give you this in the perspective. Now, you must wonder if there is so much of increase in the gross enrollment ratio, there has to be a proportionate or a commensurate increase in the number of educational institutions in our country. And needless to say that there has been continuous growth in that as well. And this is the statistics as on 2016, describing or depicting before you the numbers of different kind of educational institutions that are operating in this country. And if you look at the growth point of view, yes, there has been steady growth from 425 number of government institutes in 2011 and 12 to 479 government institutes in the year 2015 and 16, and so also commensurate growth in the private educational institutions as well. This is the rate at which the universities have grown. Again, I'll not delve deeper into it. This is something that you need to take a little bit seriously, that what is the percentage of students who get into different kind of institutions after the school. Again, I mind you, this is not specific for science, this is overall. So around 22.4% of colleges are there which are aided by the government. 13.8% are privately handled, and private unaided are 63.7%. And you can see the average enrollment per college as well. So these numbers have to be kept in mind, because as you can see, I have shown you previously, the gross enrollment ratio is only increasing every year. Now coming to the narrowed domains of specialization that we can have, say in the undergraduate level, that is immediately after the school. So but let's look at what are the colleges that we have in terms of the specialization. So we see that engineering and technology is just 6% of the entire gamut of specializations that our educational institution is able to offer. So under the general, which is 62%, is what is the science and arts. Arts, again, it is given separately, but then this is the broad umbrella on which the science avenues are also clubbed into. And if you look at the enrollment in the undergraduate level from students' point of view, this is a chart which clearly shows us what is the status. We have equal number of enrollment in both science as well as engineering, 16% each. And mind you, it was thanks to today's webinar and invitation by Dr. Pooja that this figure was known to me when I was preparing this slide, that in our country, there is equal enrollment for both science as well as engineering. What is also surprising is that at the undergraduate level, the number of people who are getting enrolled are almost double compared to science or engineering, and that is nearly 36% of our students enroll at the UG level for arts, humanities, and social sciences. But this is, again, I am reiterating, this is at the undergraduate level. Look at it, what happens if at the PhD level. So science again takes an upper hand, which is 26.3%. It's not far behind, it's almost 24.2%. And what happened to social science? What was in the earliest slide that we see, that in the undergraduate level, the enrollment is 36% in the arts and social science, whereas when it comes to the PhD level, the enrollment in the PhD for social science gets almost half compared to science or engineering. This is again an exercise for our common sense as well as a little bit of research to see what is happening to all the undergraduates after the UG course is finished. Where is it that these people are going? So that's again a big sociological research problem. But then I would like you to keep these numbers in perspective. So, okay, so now these I showed you the colleges or higher education institutions with respect to the specializations that they offer, as well as I showed you what is the preference by the students after they finish the school. Now the question comes, what is the financial viability? How are they sustained? So there are different ways financial support that is given to different strata of students, which are external fellowships and scholarships. Like every institution will have some kind of an endowment through a philanthropist or an industrialist. Then you have research and teaching assistantship, which happens at some institutions towards the end of the undergraduate studies. There are universities, fellowships, and scholarships, which are again very specific to those individual universities and organizations. Then you have government-funded scholarships, and you have student loans, revolving funds. So these are different financial options that you have for pursuing higher education in general after your school. But specifically with respect to science, that if we can narrow it down. So we see that in science, normally after the 12th, people will opt for the courses that I have listed in the first 7 bullet points. And mind you, these are not exhaustive, they are not limited, they are just indicative. So we saw earlier that there is equal number of enrollment in both science and engineering, but somehow in our country, the science gets in the psyche of the people. Most of the people who opt for science in the 11th and 12th will directly first aim for cracking the JEE or their respective state engineering exams and get into the BE or the BTech program. So engineering is one of the options. Then you have medicine, then you have pharmacy, you have veterinary science courses, then you have pure science courses, which are either BSc courses or integrated MSc courses. I want you to pay attention to this last bullet point there, which I have put with question marks, that is coding options. I have not included in this slide, but I would like all of you to go into the website of one company called Zoho, Z-O-H-O, which is there very deep south in the southern district of Tamil Nadu called Tenkasi. And that's a very unique unique kind of an organization, I would say, which coaches, which kind of imparts training to students who are willing to join them or even who are school dropouts, specifically for coding and programming. So they have their own pedagogical ways of imparting this training, so much so that in a span of 1 or 2 years, they turn out very good programmers who are absorbed in the same organization called Zoho, or give tough competition to the other usual graduates from other universities and colleges. So although I have not put it in the slide here, but again I repeat, this is Zoho. So this is something very new that has come up in the last, I would say, in the last decade. So where during the school or even just immediately after the school, you have avenues for getting into a career path about coding and programming. But the next bullet points that I've shown in this slide are something that are not immediately after your 12th, but they are after an undergraduate degree that you have got. The topmost priority in that, where most of the top scoring students aim for, is a civil service examination. Then few of them go for the management route. Some of them take interest in pursuing the law. There are even institutes like IIT Kharagpur offers a law degree after you have completed your BTech, after you have completed your engineering degree in the undergraduate. There are a lot of students in our country who would have pursued science in their undergraduate, but later they would have felt they would have fallen in passion, they would have acquired a passion for economics. So they choose a career path by pursuing for chartered accountancy or ICWA or actuarial sciences, or some of them even go for appearing for examinations in banks and several PSUs. But mind you, these 6 that I have listed, which
Live streaming is on.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah, again, sorry for the technological glitch. I mean, these are the things that we have to live with, having a lockdown and having webinars. So again, as I was saying, these are the possible career paths for students who have chosen science in their 11th and 12th. And after even finishing, say their mind changes, what are the possible deviations that they can think of?
Thank you.
So now I kind of switch gears and talk a little bit about academia versus industry. So today, what is normally referred to as Industry 4.0, that's if you can look at their mandate. So what does it mean? I know that I'm addressing school students here, but still I would like to inspire you to think where you're going to see yourself, say 5 years down the line or even 10 years down the line. So today, while you are in school, we are experiencing something called Industry 4.0. By the time you will finish your undergrads, I'm not sure what kind of new scenario we will be encountering as of today's status. What does today's industry demand from the graduates that we are going to produce? Broadly, the manufacturing smart technologies is one major chunk. Connectivity smart technologies, the second major chunk. Computing and big data. So these are the 3 broad categories in which the industry. I have taken this data from Confederation of Indian Industry, CII, whose analysis has been done by the Deloitte, and the website address is given to you right below. If you carefully look at it, in the first chunk at least, advanced materials, additive manufacturing, you can see that there is some kind of link between what we pursue as quote-unquote science subjects and the industrial requirement. But if you look at other fields, you may immediately not be able to see the connection between science and the industrial need, but take it from me that all these 3 major chunks that the industry requires from our graduates requires a strong foothold in science. We are in an era where number of fields have got merged. They have interdisciplinary fields. We have multidisciplinary fields. In such a case, it is very easy for us to get carried away in this mela of multidisciplinary field. So how to kind of stay afoot and yet respond to the industrial requirement? The success mantra there is very strong hold on fundamentals, because common to all these major three requirements by the industry, science is inevitable. So if you have strong holds on the fundamentals, you are going to win this science. Take it from me, you can in any of these
So, dear participant, we are facing some issue. Just hold for a second until we resolve this.
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me also in the mic? Can I continue?
Yeah, so we are continuing with the presentation. Dr. Ram, please.
Okay. Okay. So I was saying is that if we have a strong foothold on the scientific fundamentals that we are studying, we will not get lost in this new era of highly interdisciplinary requirements, highly multidisciplinary requirements of the industry. And I think I was about to narrate a personal experience. That is where I think I was disconnected, and I will repeat the same thing again. So all of us are going through a very desperate time period now, and under this COVID pandemic throughout the world. And yesterday, if you had paid attention to the news, the head of ICMR has come out to and has said that never in the history of the discovery of vaccine have humanity seen such a fast pace that within 3.5 months, a vaccine has gone into a human trial, which means that lots of researchers from different domains are working in a very synergistic manner in order to solve the problem that the humanity is facing. That was one global example to show you, and I'll give you one very personal example also as well. One of my students who is doing BTech in our institute, he's in an integrated MTech course and he's doing a project with me. He's in a chemistry department. But then using the his knowledge about machine learning, we had published and we had put it in the public domain as well. And looking at that, now my student has been approached by more than 2 companies for internship. So what I'm giving you an example is, even if you are pursuing basic science, if you are strong at the fundamentals, you can shape your career in any of these industrial demands. And mind you, again, I'm repeating, this is Industry 4.0 as on today when you are in your school. In the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, how this is going to evolve is something that we'll have to sit and watch. Because the pace with which the technology is developing, this is not a linear extrapolation that we can do. So this success mantra for this kind of a complex industrial demand is very simple. Be strong at your fundamentals, and your pursuing science at your school level with a strong foothold in your fundamental concept will place you in any of these industrial sectors that you would like to shape your career in the future. So as I was telling before, the Industry 4.0 as on today, the skill set that it demands are cognitive abilities, ICT, and content skills, complex problem solving, technical skills, resource management. Now, looking at these 6 skill set that the industry expects from any student, can you differentiate now between science or engineering? Definitely no. There is a big overlap between these 2 apparently distant fields that is merging every day, every passing day. And what the current industry today requiring is only these 6 abilities, which any student, even a science student, can definitely hone the skill. Through a very small animation, I would like to show that perhaps 20 years back, science and engineering had some interaction, but then they were not very close to each other. And maybe 10 years back, they were indeed coming close. But today what we see is an indistinguishability, because what you require is a synergistic approach, not as a compartmental approach of science or engineering. It is kind of both, very interdisciplinary, where even medicine, when I say science, it is even the medical science, where I know a lot of my personal friends who have pursued MBBS, followed by an MTech, followed by a PhD, and they are doing very well in their career path today. So this is the emerging jobs. When I say emerging jobs, it's as on today and in the few years to come. It's all, you may think of it as though it is only pertaining to computer science, or say what today, quote unquote, they call it as data science. But even a math student, or say a physical chemistry student, or a computational biology student who are familiar with statistical methods can improve their skill set in this direction and be a possible candidate for this kind of a job, emerging job market. So they are machine learning. And I would also take a small digression here and spend a few seconds upon the terminological uses. So words like data mining, machine learning, these are a buzzword that we hear on and on today. On the same hand, we hear the word like nanochemistry, nanotechnology. But then if you look at the history of science, when Faraday had, and the example that most people always quote for nano is the nano gold made by Faraday almost some 150 years back. And that time it was a colloidal science. So what our previous generations studied as colloid has been carried forward as nanoscience. Of course, it has had new avatars and new applications. But what I'm trying to say is that several of these things have been done in the past by different terminologies. So those of you who are in maths or say in physics or physical chemistry, linear algebra and statistics is something that all of these students study. So most of the techniques that are employed in machine learning today, what we call quote unquote machine learning, are coming from the domain of linear algebra, higher statistics, and of course differential equations. So again and again I'm trying to drive home the point that once we are strong in some of the fundamentals, acquiring or fine-tuning them at a later stage for responding to industrial requirement will not be a problem. International opportunities. So in the previous slide, what I had actually tried to say was the industrial opportunities in science that you can think of, but those are predominantly after your UG careers, after you have taken some degree in the UG. In the industry, except for that Zoho industry, which I said, immediately after the 12th, to the best of my knowledge, there is no opening unless you adopt the route of startup. That I'll come towards the last of my slide. Right now, but in this one slide, I would like to briefly tell about international opportunities, which are immediately after school. So there are a lot of higher education institutions in abroad. All the countries, mostly the Indians prefer to go to developed economies like the US, Europe, some of the European countries, UK, Australia. And most of the students who opt for their studies abroad right after school or right after their graduation are those countries where the lingua franca is English. In other words, where the medium of instruction is English. And hence, some of the European universities, although they have medium of instruction in English, because of their national languages, namely German or French or Spanish, some of their institutions are not that much opted compared to institutions in US, UK, or Australia. Of course, you have other factors also favoring some nation and not favoring some nation. That is to do with the immigration policies of those nations and our foreign policy relationship of our country. But I mean, I'm not going to deal into that. But coming to the point here, what I'm trying to say is, immediately after school, especially for the science students, there are opportunities in countries where you can apply for and seek an undergraduate course in a foreign soil. And definitely there are a lot of opportunities after the graduation program where you can apply for another undergraduate program or a master's program in a foreign soil. And after your post-graduation, normally people will go for a PhD in the foreign soil. There are very rare cases where you have done a postgraduate in India and you do a double postgraduate. That is, you do once again an MS in a foreign country. And if you have done a PhD in India, you will be obviously going abroad to do your postdoctoral research. In the passing, I would also like to mention that immediately after the school, securing an undergraduate seat with scholarship in a foreign soil, although available, but the percentage is very minuscule, which calls for a hefty financial support from the student's end who is seeking an admission for an undergraduate course in a foreign soil. Having said that, in the foreign soil also, there are different kinds of institutions, government funded, private, and one has to do a thorough research about the integrity of the foreign institute before investing your time and money for seeking your educational career in a foreign soil. There are lots of websites which specifically cater into, which give a database about different kind of universities. I mean, those of you are much interested, you're free to contact me. And on an individual basis, I would like to give those websites. I didn't want to put it here. Otherwise, it may appear as though I'm promoting some of those sites. That impression I don't want to give. Having said that, finally, I would also like to say that after the undergraduate level, different countries have got fellowship programs. The government of different countries. The few that I know of are the DGF of Germany, BKS program of Korea. Then you have USIEF, United States India Exchange Student Fellowship. So under the USIEF, you have multiple fellowships, and Fulbright is one such thing where it caters to Indian students right after their undergraduate level itself. Anyway, so I will wrap up about international opportunities here, and that brings me to my final slide about the startups. This is something that we have been hearing in the last 5 to 10 years, and every passing day, the government is insisting or paying more attention on people becoming entrepreneurs, people having their own startups. I'm repeating the statistics that I started with, which said that there are 135 million students in the primary school as on 2016. The statistics is as on 2016. And I showed you the population pyramid as well, which means in 10 years down the line, there will be more number of graduates who are coming out. So what is the wherewithal of either the private sector or the government sector to give a livelihood to these graduates? Some of you who are sitting in the audience also will come into that bracket, say after 5 years. So the fire or the kind of rage which started in different country, and our country is no lagging back in this entrepreneurial enterprise called startups. We have had startups from a very different sector, and why the startups are important is looking at those statistics of our school and higher education, number of higher education. The future is that if we secure the job all by ourselves, as we say in Hindi, apne पैरों में खुद खड़े होना. This muhavra we have been having, this phrase that we have been hearing from a very long time. But this startup is the economical translation of that, economic translation of that Hindi muhavra, खुद के पैरों में खड़े होना. So you can think of startup in different sectors, either service sector or product sector or manufacturing sector. And it can be from any small product to a large enterprise. So there are examples of galore of very successful startups. And I should also caution you at this point of time that the success rate of startup is something that is not very encouraging as on today. That the success rate, as I'm told, I have not verified the number, is in single digit percentage. That for every one successful startup, we'll have at least 90 to 100 unsuccessful startups. But that has not discouraged our young risk-taking population from entering this sector of startups. These are some statistics pertaining to the startups, and as you can see, India is just the third position in terms of the number of startups that have been growing in our country. What was projected, this you can see that there's 75% of jump compared to 2015 to this year. The geographical spread of these startups, you may be wondering, why am I talking about startups to students of science? See, what happens is when we are students in 12th, okay, our immediate next goal, short-term goal, is to secure a college admission, and that too in a good reputed college admission. Immediately after that, we'll be worrying about placement. will have to sit for, and the immediate short-term goal would be to earn a good salary. So what has happened is, in the last at least 40 to 50 years, we have all been trained. Most of us have been trained, including me. I am not an exclusion in that, to have only short-term goals. Okay, agla kya, agla kya. What is it that is in the next 1 year? And in most of our cases, it has been driven by an external force, either through the parent or through some connection of our family who will guide us. But the startup is I call it as a disruptive technology, where it gives an independence to for a student to think and chart out a career path, not just the immediate short term of 5 to 6 years, but on a long term. And science students are at equal demand compared to engineering students in this. And for that matter, arts and social science students are no bad in this case. So every student who has got some creativity, some innovativeness, and the zeal to achieve, those are the basic requirements for startup. And as you can see, the demographic spread also in this, it is spread across the country. But then the top cities, namely the Bangalore, the National Capital Region, and Mumbai, are the leading places where today's startups are concentrated. And specifically in cities like Chennai, Pune, Hyderabad, Ahmedabad, and Jaipur. But I'm sure with the drive and with the rate of growth of startups, the graph that I'm showing, the map that I'm showing you today would be as pervasive as COVID has pervaded India today. So this is again some statistics pertaining to the startups, and I would like to draw your attention today that the engineering students are on 35%, whereas other graduates, other postgraduate, which together make up around 25%, are also involved in the startups. And as you can see, the young population of 20 to say 40 years, they are the major chunk who are entering into the startup. And remember, with a startup, you are not accountable to anybody. You're only accountable to your own conscience and the law of the land. So you remember my earlier quote of pursuing science. If you're able to pursue science in the form of a startup, that is a wonderful and a matter of enduring joy, because you're not answerable to anybody but for your conscience and the law of the land, and you are also becoming a job producer and not just a job seeker. I would like to end my talk with this quotation. This is about C.V. Raman, and as all of you know, he is the only Nobel laureate that our country has produced. He had worked in our country, he had discovered the Raman effect, and he had got the Nobel Prize for that. After all of this, in one of his trips to Cambridge, he meets Rutherford, the famous Rutherford, whose name is associated with the gold foil experiment that you and I have studied in the school. He meets Rutherford, and in one of the casual talks in Rutherford, Raman says to him that, I quote, "It seems to me Cambridge is a place for play and not for study." Immediately Rutherford seems to have told, and I quote, "We do not try to grow bookworms here. We train men who can govern an empire." So you see the kind of, and this is something that I'm talking about in the early 30s. The interaction that has happened between the 1920s or in 1930s, and we're almost 100 years later. So we will, both our educational institutions, our mindset who are seeking education, should be tuned or should be evolved in such a way that we just don't look at immediate benefits, but rather look at long-term benefits. As Rutherford said here, that we need to be trained, and our education institution should train men who can govern an empire. With this, I thank you for your patience, and I would like to answer any question that you may have. Thank you.
you, Ram. So I request you to kindly switch on your camera so that we can start with some questions now.
Sure.
You can stop sharing. So there is first question which I can see from the chat box. What is your opinion about the Indian education system? Is there any need to update the system to impart practical skills rather than just cramming of the concepts? What is your opinion on this?
Very good question. There are two broad parts to your question. Is there a need of improvement? Yes, yes, and a very loud yes. And cramming versus practical skills. Of course, cramming helps only to clear exams. But clearing exams is not going to set your career. So practical skills are indeed heads and shoulders above the cramming skills. Cramming skills can only take you to a small level of clearing exams. But of course, practical skills are needed.
So the second question, what are the opportunity if a child choose both medical, like mathematics as well as biology? Right now it is optional. So in the current scenario, I think both subjects are compulsory. So what are the opportunity for a student who opt for both maths as well as biological sciences in their plus one, plus two?
So even right now, it is not actually mandatory. I think to the best of my knowledge, CBSE gives an option to the school either to have maths, physics, chemistry, and language and computers, or biology, physics, chemistry. I mean, you have your option is given to you. But then if a student has opted, say, maths, physics, chemistry, biology, and the language, it is like securing either a seat in engineering or a seat in medicine. With that is the aim with which you are getting prepared. But I would say if you are able to take up that stream, you are at a much advantageous position. And even if you choose, say, a career in science, with the knowledge, the fundamental knowledge of both math as well as biology, the sky is the limit to expand your knowledge horizon. And if you're able to get both of it in your school, more the better. So I don't see any. I see all only advantageous position combination, and I don't see any disadvantage at this.
Okay, so there is one question. What is scope of science in this competitive world?
So I think I'll take it up as a failure of my webinar, because all along for half an hour at least I was trying to say that even a field like data science, a science student has got a maximum opportunity. So there is, you have science students are having maximum scope in today's world, competitive world. Who else do you think will have a better scope, if not for the science students?
Okay, so the another question which has been put by the participant, is there any relation between a doctor and a scientist? How they are related? Like,
okay.
Can a doctor?
Wonderful question. Wonderful question. That is again, I'm sorry to say, it's one of the failures of our society in large and educational institutions that has not taken up R&D research that seriously. So much so that a youngster today is able to pose a question asking the relationship between a doctor and a researcher. Mind you, no good medical school is of worth its name without a research background. Today, you are able to come out with a vaccine for pandemic, COVID pandemic within 3.5 months. It is purely because of research. So it is very much, okay, now a doctor. You finish an MBBS degree, then you start practicing. Those of you who want to become specialization, you go after MBBS, you do something called an MD or an MS. Then those of you who want to even still further specialize, you go for a DM. And even when you're doing MD or an MS, you need to submit a research project, a research thesis you have to submit. But those of you who do not go for, say, MS or MD and start practicing right after your MBBS, you are right into the job market. You're just practicing what has been taught to you, and the research is being done by somebody else. So there is obviously a dire requirement for the practice of medicine and the research of medicine. And as I told you before, every good medical university, medical college of our country also is worth its name only because of the research that they impart.
Thank you, Ram. There is another practical question asked by, is there any way that one can take admission in engineering courses on the basis of skills, not grades? Are there any such courses or such platforms?
Okay, so this is again a very good question, and I'm sorry to say I have to cut a sorry face, because today, given the population, to give you just a number, every year the number of students who take JEE are something close to 15 lakhs. But how many engineering institutes do we have? Number of IITs, we have only 23, and around 40 or 30 to 40 we have NITs, and then you have even if you take maximum, we will end up having only few thousands of engineering institutes. So there has to be a filtering mechanism, and today, whether we like it or not, grades or marks have been the criteria of filtering. Yet, there are at least 2 institutes that I know of which do not cater or which do not pander to the requirement of grades and marks. One is in Gandhinagar. It is called Ahmedabad Institute of Engineering and Technology. I'm not very sure of the name, but it is in Gandhinagar, where they have a different philosophy of recruitment, of different philosophy of admission altogether. They don't rely upon the mark. One can go through their website, Ahmedabad Institute of Technology, if I'm not wrong. The second is, as I told you in my talk also, it is a Zoho. They also do not look at marks or grade, but they look at the skill set and aptitude.
Thank you, Ram. So one more question is how the engineering courses, which engineering courses are helpful for the government jobs? So this is some participants, how they can be to fetch the government job, because in India, getting a government job is a big craze, you know that.
This question again makes me a little sad. Why? Because I am addressing to school students, and even now I see that the crave, the what do you call, the passion for getting a government job is fresh even in the younger generation. So that is something which tells that the government jobs are lucrative, and at the same time it also tells that our mindset has not changed. Our society is not ready to get out of that inertia of securing that safe and secured government job. Having said that comment, answering your question, well, there is no one particular engineering thing that will secure you a government job. Say if you do a BTech, then you can get into the engineering services, which are specifically held for engineering graduates, and any branch of engineering students can apply for that. Then you can become a civil servant after that. Or you have options in PSUs like railways and other oil and energy corporations of our country, which are also PSUs. So where chemical engineers are more in demand, electrical engineers are more in demand. Control, wherever you have control requirements all these engineering, the evergreen branches of engineering are in demand. Or CPWD works, Public Works Division, PWD works, you have civil engineering that is in demand. So there is no one answer to this. Depending upon which government sector you are looking for, that engineering branch will be of importance.
Okay, Ram, thank you so much for answering it. Although you in your presentation detailed what are the career options in science for school students, can you just brief, like other than engineering and medical disciplines, what are the options in the basic sciences after +2? Because all the students mostly they don't qualify, like some of them don't qualify. So what are the options?
That's why in one of my in one of my slides I had, that's why after 12th you can go for BSc, you can go for integrated MSc. BSc you have in colleges, you have in universities, and through JEE ranking, if you have qualified and even if your rank is not for engineering, you have Indian Institute of Science, Education and Research, which are there at least in 7 to 8 places in our country, like Mohali, Kolkata, Berhampur, Bhopal, Trivandrum, Pune. These are the places where you have ISER, where you can get inside for an integrated MSc course right after your 12th class. You have in IISc also, very recently they have started an undergraduate program that is through a fellowship program. I think Kishore Vigyan Puraskar KYPY program. That is something very unique that's in IISc. But otherwise, for after 12th, you have the option of BSc in any of these institutes that I have mentioned. You can take up veterinary science, but that is again specific for biology students, and those who have not opted biology, they cannot get into veterinary science. Paramedical sciences, that's again for, if you have had biology in your 12th, you can opt for paramedical science opportunities. Then you have ISI Institute, Indian Statistical Institutes, which are there in Delhi, Bangalore, Kolkata, and I think in Bombay also. They're central government institutes who specifically pursue statistics, course in statistics. That is right after your 12th, you can opt for that. Then you, I think these are the pretty much institutes that I can immediately think of after 12th for science, pursuing your degrees.
Okay, Ram, taking another last 2 questions. So can you put some lights on some diploma courses after +2?
So yes, after +2, general diploma courses people go for immediately after 10th class. After +2, it is quite, I have not at least come across many. So after 10th, normally people go for this diploma